Hello everyone, it's Andrew from GemTCG here, and in today's video I'll be talking about the never-ending problem with being a Pokemon or any TCG reseller. And this topic came up when I was talking to a patron the other day, and they were talking about sourcing inventory and like how to constantly get inventory and do this for the long run. And they thought there was some like better solution, like or like they hoped that there was a better solution to getting inventory. But they are like I told them that this is actually one of the biggest problems that like even I deal with, which is it is very hard to get inventory to sell and make a profit for. And I'll be talking about that problem and also just like how to deal with it and what my solutions are for that problem. Because once you get to a big enough scale, this is the one thing that holds you back from growing more. And it's something that you always have to deal with every single day. So it's very important to understand. And also, if you are new here and you need more one on one help starting and growing your business, I have a Patreon with a link in the description. And I also give or sell sealed product and collections at a discount on there. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join the Patreon. So obviously getting inventory, like if you're paying full market price, you could always get inventory. But in order to get inventory to make a profit, you have to be paying like 70%, preferably lower, but it's very hard to find deals at that price. And sometimes you even have to go up to like 80, 85%, which personally I don't recommend going up that high if you want to make a good profit. Like the last 2 months I was paying around 80% to eight, sometimes 85%, depending on how good the collection was. But especially today with like the market slowing down, people buying things less often than they used to, I definitely don't recommend going up to 80% unless it's like a very good collection with multiple $100+ cards in there, because when you're going up to 80%, you're really cutting into your profit margin a lot. So if you're marking it up like 20%, you're only making like probably 15 to 20% on that collection, assuming all goes well, there's no returns, no items getting lost, anything like that. So it's very hard to get a good profit when you're paying that much. And of course, like it's easier to find collections when you're paying 80% because that's what these people want to sell it at. They want to sell for like people. Sometimes I've been seeing posts lately where they'll list a collection and their asking price would be like 90+% of the market price, which is very crazy because you can't even get 90% if you sell it as singles on eBay, like at just regular market price. So those people, I usually just ignore them. Don't even like waste your time trying to buy from them because any number you throw out there, they're going to think it's too low and they're not going to want to buy from or sell to you. So instead, my solution or like what I do is just make your post saying that you're buying collections at whatever percent you're comfortable with. Like you could say 60%, but people are gonna laugh, react at your post, or they'll like send like troll comments or stuff like that, which can be pretty annoying. But at the end of the day, if you're getting cards at 60% and you're making a profit, just ignore those people because they're just mad that they can't do it themselves, or they're just bitter people overall, and who cares about them? But the sweet spot is 70%. I think that's like the perfect price point to buy stuff at because it's not too low, but it's also not too high. So like it feels like a win-win for both parties, the buyer and the seller. And a lot more people are willing to sell stuff at 70%, and you could also be more selective when you're buying at that price. Like a lot of times people will have collections and there's like a bunch of cards that are worth less than $1 in there. And when you see something like that and you're paying 60%, then like it's hard to negotiate and say, can you please remove those cards that are below $1, because it's hard to make a profit on those. Whereas if you're paying 70%, you have more power to be able to like be strict with what you're buying, and you can ask them to remove those cards, and most often they'd be willing to do so. And if they're not, then you could just, either give them a lower price or find another seller, because there are thousands of sellers and there's only a few dozen buyers. So Just always remember that when you're buying stuff from people in these groups, that like there's a lot more of them than there are of you. So don't feel like you need to stretch yourself thin and offer like a super high amount or buy anything, because it's a lot more supply than you think. And there's always sellers every single day. Like people always need to sell cards, but not everyone needs to buy them. And another thing that you could be strict with is condition. Like, I don't even buy anything if it's marked as moderately played or lower. I always tell them to remove those cards from the list, because a lot of the times those cards are like still priced expensively on TCG Player, but they don't sell that well and they're much harder to sell. So you're going to have your money locked up for a lot longer when you do that, because most people want near mint cards, especially if it's like a relatively newer set. Like if it's like a 15-year-old set, people will be fine with a moderately played card. But if it's, XY era or Sun and Moon, nobody wants moderately played from that era. Obviously, some people will buy them, but it's very few. So that's that. So you got to make your posts. And then the other thing to help with this problem of like getting inventory, there's two more things. One of them is being consistent with your posts. If you're not posting like at least a few times a week, ideally every single day, you are missing out on a lot of potential sellers, because like let's say you make a post on Monday and it gets no traction. That's basically doing nothing. But then let's say you make a post on Tuesday and 10 people comment on it and you get like a few collections to buy from there. Then Wednesday, maybe like two people comment on it and not so much, like you buy like one collection. So every day it fluctuates. It all depends on how many people are commenting on those posts and how much like traffic it's getting. So you could get unlucky and you post on a bunch of days, like in that Monday example, where no one comments, no one messages you, you get no collections. Or you can get lucky and you get the Tuesday example where you get like 5 collections that you could buy. But if you do it consistently and post every single day, that volatility will be much better in your favor, so that you'll always find collections to buy. And you'll also be getting your name out there so people will recognize you more, and you'll be spreading awareness to a larger audience, because you'll be having people see you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every single day of the week. They'll be seeing your post, because not everyone is just going on Facebook and they're like, oh, I need to sell this collection. Let me go look through these groups to see if anyone's buying. They'll most likely be on Facebook and they'll see someone's like buying collections, and then they'll message you and say, "Oh, I have this collection if you're interested." And then you get it worked out there. So definitely be consistent when you're posting these like searching to buy posts if you want to find a lot of collections. And then the next thing, which is also the last thing for this video, is to always be buying regardless of the market, because right now, like I guess like in the past few months, the market was very hot. Everyone wanted to buy cards. People were paying 80, 90% for collections, and that's because it was just easy to sell them. And there was a lot of like people jumping in on the hype and just wanting to buy collections to flip, which is a good thing in a way, but it's also bad because prices right now are inflated and they're very high up compared to what they used to be. And the people buying today are paying the highest prices that that card has ever seen. Whereas people paying like buying collections last year when the market was very down, they were paying a much lower price. So like, let's just say for example, like a trainer gallery hit that used to be, or that's currently selling for like $150. Last year, that card was probably worth $80, but no one was buying it at the time because people thought Pokemon was dead and no one's going to buy cards anymore. And there was a lot of just negative emotion with Pokemon cards. So then this led to a lot less people buying collections, which also led to people selling collections at a much lower percentage. Like I remember 70% was the high during that time period when we were in a bear market, and 60% was like the normal, like 60 to 65. And that's what I was paying. So imagine I'm paying 60 to 65% on a card that's worth $80 then, that's now worth $150. And now people are paying 80 to 90% for that $150 card. So as you can see there, for something I paid, or not just me, but like anyone, paid probably like $70 for, or like $60 for, people are currently paying $130 for that card. So you have to be buying stuff all the time, regardless of the market. And don't be afraid when people are being very negative about the market and saying no one's going to buy cards, or even if you have to buy it and then sit on it for a while, that's much better than waiting till a moment like today or this current market where everyone is just paying 90%, 80% for collections, and then it's like almost impossible to get inventory. The biggest thing that led to me being successful during this market was the fact that I was buying inventory last year. All throughout last year, I was buying stuff, and obviously it was sitting for a while because there was a lot less collectors and buyers. But when this market took a swing and it's a bull market now, those prices went up higher, and I was able to sell a lot of my inventory for a much higher price, which would not have happened, or would, yeah, it wouldn't have happened if I was not buying cars last year during a bear market. So always make sure you're buying stuff. Don't be afraid of like having to sit on it for a while or thinking that the card's going to go down in price or anything like that, because more often than not, the card will go up in price. It just depends on how long you have to wait for that. Usually like a year or two, but still worth it in my opinion. And if you do it consistently, you will see a lot of success. But yeah, those are my three things for like that problem of having inventory and how to get inventory for your store. You have to pay a decent price and make your posts saying that you're paying a like certain price. Be consistent with your posts, and then also always buy regardless of the market, because if you don't have inventory, you can't make sales. And if you can't make sales, you won't make profit. So it all starts from getting inventory. That's the most important thing for your business. So make sure you're doing that and focusing on that. Otherwise, you will be stagnant and maybe even fail at the end of the day. But yeah, that's about it for this one. Hope you guys find it helpful, and I will see you all in the next video.